She kept the spare key under the mat even though everyone said not to. Not because it was smart, but because it made the apartment feel less guarded. Like life could come and go without asking permission. Most days, nothing happened. The mat stayed still. The hallway stayed quiet. Then one rainy evening, she came home to find the light on. Her first thought was panic. Her second was annoyance at herself for being predictable. She stepped inside carefully and saw him standing in the kitchen, jacket dripping onto the floor, holding a grocery bag like a peace offering. He froze when he noticed her, already mid-apology. He lived downstairs. They had exchanged nods, nothing more. That night, the rain had soaked him. His phone had died, and he remembered the spare key she'd once mentioned casually in passing, laughing about how unsafe it was. He hadn't planned to use it. He just needed shelter long enough to figure out his next move. They stood there awkwardly for a moment, then laughed at the same time. The tension broke. He offered to leave immediately. She told him to stay until the rain slowed. They sat at the small table, sharing food he'd brought for a dinner that had clearly been canceled elsewhere. Conversation unfolded easily. About strange buildings, unreliable plans, how quickly a day can fall apart. The rain lasted longer than expected. So did the evening. They talked about things people usually save for later, why they lived alone, what they'd given up recently, what felt unfinished. There was no flirtation at first, just attention, presence, the rare comfort of being understood without trying. When the rain finally stopped, neither moved right away. He asked if he could come back sometime, through the door, not the mat. She smiled and said yes. The spare key stayed where it was for a while longer. Not because she needed it, but because it reminded her that some boundaries aren't about keeping people out. Sometimes, they're about being open enough to let the right ones in when life knocks unexpectedly. After that night, the hallway didn't feel as anonymous anymore. Footsteps had a rhythm. Doors had meaning. When she heard someone coming up the stairs, she sometimes wondered if it was him before realizing she didn't mind the thought. They didn't rush into anything. They waved more often, talked longer when they met by the mailboxes, shared small updates that felt unnecessary but welcome. He came back a few days later, just like he said he would. Knocked this time. No rain. No emergency. Just a coffee in his hand and a question about whether she wanted company. She did. They sat on opposite ends of the couch at first, talking about ordinary things. Workdays that felt too long, neighbors they barely knew, how strange it was that one moment could quietly rearrange your routine. What grew between them wasn't loud. It was steady, familiar. He remembered how she liked her tea. She remembered which days he stayed late at work. Sometimes they cooked together. Sometimes they didn't talk much at all. Silence became something shared, not avoided. One evening, she admitted the spare key was still under the mat. He raised an eyebrow, half joking, half curious. She said she hadn't moved it because it reminded her that not everything needed to be locked away. He didn't touch it, didn't comment further. He understood what it meant. The first time he stayed over, it wasn't planned. A movie ended late. The city outside had gone quiet. He asked if it was okay. She said yes without hesitation. The closeness felt natural, unforced. Less like a new beginning and more like recognizing something that had already been there. Eventually, the spare key moved. Not because it was dangerous, but because it wasn't needed anymore. He had his own copy now, handed to him one morning without ceremony. It felt symbolic in a way neither of them needed to explain. Some people enter your life through carefully opened doors. Others arrive by accident, soaked by the rain, and stay because you realize you were never meant to keep everything locked in the first place.